Good morning, audience. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, so I'm going to go directly over to what I promised. I'm going to talk about the atomic scientist and the Doomsday Clock. Okay, so I'm going to go over to this website, okay, and I'll put the slide up. It's called thebulletin.org, and I'm going to just read you what it says. So every year at the first of the year, the Atomic Scientist Commission moves the second hand according to what they feel is the danger, okay? Leaders around the world must immediately commit themselves to renewed cooperation in the many ways and venues available for reducing existential risk. Citizens of the world can and should organize to demand that their leaders do so, and quickly. The doorstep of doom is no place to loiter. One argument that I hear constantly when someone watches Noam's video is, oh, well, that's preposterous, or that's outrageous, or, oh, he's lost it. The old guy no longer has control of his faculties, or some nonsense. Many people would say something like, I used to respect him. Well, let me just remind you, Noam is reporting, okay? He's a scholar. He reads a lot. And so let's go over to what is this commission, okay? And what's it about? And how much authority should we lend it? Founded in 1945 by Albert Einstein and University of Chicago scientists who had developed the first atomic weapons in the Manhattan Project. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist created the Doomsday Clock 2 years later using the imagery of apocalypse, midnight, and the contemporary idiom of nuclear explosion, countdown to zero, to convey threats to humanity and the planet. The Doomsday Clock is set every year by the Bulletin Science and Security Board in consultation with its board of sponsors. Okay, now the board of sponsors are what you might call the scientists, the people that collaborate to come up with this. It includes 11 Nobel laureates. Now, in the 120 years or so that the Nobel Prize has been around, 607 times, 975 people have been awarded the Nobel Prize, who are then called Nobel laureates. Okay, so in 120 years, there are 975 Nobel laureates. So let's think about this for a minute. The board of sponsors, in other words, the people that collaborate to move the second hand on the Doomsday Clock, there are approximately 20 or so of those each year. Some obviously stay on, others come on, others go off, etc. Albert Einstein was the first one, and we've had many, many very distinguished members of the committee. The point being is that this isn't a random choice. Let's move the clock this far or that. It's a very rigorous process. This current one is the one that moved it to 100 seconds after the Trump administration. That had moved from 2 minutes. It was the first time that the clock had gotten into seconds. Remember, this is a metaphor. It's not an exact thing. It doesn't mean that we have 100 seconds to live, or that 100 seconds translates to 2 years or anything like that. It's a metaphor. But the point being is that we are facing existential threats, and we need to do something about it. We need to avert cataclysm. Obviously, as the name implies, the commission was originally set up because of the threat of nuclear war or nuclear accident. Since then, we've added a few other categories. Primarily, the main one is climate change. The important thing to remember is that since the commission was started, the clock has never been advanced as close to midnight as it is now. And it will be reset this coming January. I would expect that depending on what happens in Washington right now and in the midterms, the clock will either advance forward with very little time before we can turn the corner, or we may buy ourselves some time. And I'm suggesting that the only way we're going to do that, folks, is if we take back the Senate and we retain the House. I know everybody says no votes, this and that's not doing anything, we've got all these problems, but at this point, that is the thing we need to focus on, I promise. Now, I just went a minute ago and looked up how many Nobel laureates have been, and it's something like 365 or something like that in 100 years, okay? Now, keep in mind that the current board of sponsors, the current scientists on this board are 11 of the 20 or so are Nobel laureates. Out of the 600 and some Nobel laureates since the beginning in 100 years, 11 are currently on this board. In other words, these aren't just people that speculate and say, oh, let's just, say that the clock should move to 100 seconds or to 2 minutes or back to 7 minutes before or whatever. No, it's a very rigorous process, and they deliberate and they study issues. These are scientists. These are people that are very, very smart. Okay. So what Noam is referring to with this imminent disaster is he's using this metaphor of the countdown clock. So people that say, "Oh, he's lost it," or it's not his opinion. I mean, he has formed an opinion, but he's formed it based on what he's read, and he's coming to us to give us this information. It's our job now to go share this information with as many people as we can. Time is short. We need to act, and we need to act now. Thank you.